The new Old Trafford, United's £2 billion vision for the future. What if we told you that Manchester United were planning to build a stadium bigger than any other football ground in the world? What if we said this new home could host the biggest women's football tournament on the planet? And what if we mentioned that the man who helped bring the Olympics to London is now leading this incredible project? Welcome to the most ambitious stadium project in football history. Manchester United aren't just talking about fixing up Old Trafford. They're planning to build a brand new 100,000-seat stadium that could change everything about how we think about football stadiums. This isn't just about United anymore. This is about creating something that could put Manchester on the map as a global sporting destination. The best part? They want to use it to host the 2035 Women's World Cup final. Let's dive into what could be the most exciting development in United's history since the club was founded. The man leading the charge. When Manchester United announced their stadium plans back in March, they knew they needed someone special to make it happen. That someone is Lord Sebastian Coe. And if you don't know who he is, you're about to find out why he's perfect for this job. Coe isn't just any random appointment. This is a man who won 4 Olympic medals as a runner, representing Great Britain in the 800m and 1500m events. But more importantly for United, he's the man who helped London win the right to host the 2012 Olympics. Think about what that means. The London Olympics were one of the most successful games in recent history. They transformed East London, brought billions of pounds into the UK economy, and showed the world what Britain could achieve when it put its mind to something big. Now Coe is bringing that same experience and vision to Manchester United's stadium project. He's not just there to cut ribbons and make speeches. He's been named as the chair-designate of the Mayoral Development Corporation for the Old Trafford Regeneration Project. That's a fancy way of saying he's going to be the person making sure this whole thing actually happens. Why 100,000 seats? The first question most people ask is simple. Why does United need a 100,000-seat stadium? After all, Old Trafford already holds about 75,000 people, making it one of the biggest stadiums in England. The answer comes down to ambition and what United see as their place in world football. The club believes that a team of United standing should have a state-of-the-art facility that matches their global reputation. Look at some of the biggest stadiums in world football. Barcelona's Camp Nou holds 99,354 people. Real Madrid's Santiago Bernabéu holds 81,044. If United build a 100,000-seat stadium, they'll have the biggest football stadium in the world. But it's not just about having the biggest stadium for bragging rights. More seats mean more revenue on match days. More revenue means more money to spend on players, facilities, and everything else that makes a football club successful. Plus, United have one of the biggest global fan bases in world football. There are millions of United fans who would love to see their team play at Old Trafford but can't get tickets because the stadium is always sold out. A bigger stadium means more fans can experience the magic of watching United play at home. The £2 billion question. Let's talk about the cost, because £2 billion is a lot of money. To put that in perspective, it's more than United have spent on player transfers in their entire history. It's more than some small countries spend on their entire annual budget. But here's the thing about big infrastructure projects. They're not just about the immediate cost. They're about the long-term benefits they bring to the area and the people who live there. When London built the Olympic Park for 2012, it cost billions of pounds. But it also transformed one of the poorest areas of London into a thriving community with new homes, jobs, and opportunities. The same thing could happen in Manchester. United have been smart about the funding too. They've said they'll look for public funding for the infrastructure around the stadium, things like roads, transport links, and utilities. But they won't ask for public money to build the stadium itself. That shows they're serious about making this work without putting the burden on taxpayers. More than just a stadium. This isn't just about building a big stadium and calling it a day. United are talking about regenerating the entire area around Old Trafford. They want to create new homes, new jobs, and new opportunities for the people of Manchester. Lord Coe knows exactly what this can look like. In his statement about the project, he said, "Throughout my career, I've seen the difference that sports-led regeneration can make in fostering strong communities and acting as a catalyst for economic growth. That was certainly true of the London 2012 Olympics and Paralympics, and now I believe Greater Manchester's moment has come. Think about what that could mean for Manchester. New housing developments, new businesses, new transport links, new opportunities for local people. This isn't just about making United a better football club, it's about making Manchester a better place to live and work. The project will work with Trafford Council and the mayor to bring these benefits to the local area. It's the kind of partnership between sport and politics that can create real change in people's lives. The 2035 Women's World Cup dream. Here's where the project gets really exciting. United don't just want to build a new stadium, they want to use it to host the 2035 Women's World Cup final. This is huge for several reasons. First, women's football is growing incredibly fast. The 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand broke viewing records around the world. By 2035, the tournament could be even bigger. Second, hosting a World Cup final is one of the biggest honors in world football. It puts your stadium and your city on the global stage in a way that nothing else can. Millions of people around the world would be watching Manchester. The timing works perfectly too. Great Britain are the sole bidder for the 2035 Women's World Cup, which means they have a great chance of winning the right to host it. If United's new stadium is ready by then, it could be the perfect venue for the final. Co mentioned this specifically in his statement. Looking ahead, I see a chance to bring the FIFA Women's World Cup to a new Old Trafford Stadium in 2035. The home nations are the sole bidder, which presents a rare opportunity to bid to host the global football family. What we know about the new stadium. So what will this new stadium actually look like? United have been working with Foster Plus Partners, the architects who designed Wembley Stadium, to create a master plan for the project. The new stadium will be built on land next to the current Old Trafford, not as a replacement for it. At least that was the original plan. There had been talk of keeping Old Trafford as a smaller second venue, but it's looking more and more likely that the old stadium will be demolished entirely. United consulted with 30,000 fans about what to do, and they found that opinion was split roughly 50-50 between staying at Old Trafford and moving to a new stadium. That's a tough decision for any club, especially one with as much history as United. Old Trafford has been United's home since 1910. That's over 100 years of history, including some of the greatest moments in football history. The Munich air disaster, the 1999 Champions League final, countless Premier League titles. They all happened at Old Trafford. But sometimes you have to make hard decisions for the future. United clearly believe that a new stadium is the best way to move forward, even if it means saying goodbye to their historic home. The timeline and challenges. United are aiming to complete the project by 2030. That might seem like a long time, but for a project of this scale, it's actually quite ambitious. Building a 100,000-seat stadium isn't like building a house. It requires years of planning, design work, obtaining permits, and actual construction. Plus, they're not just building a stadium, they're regenerating an entire area. The timeline also depends on getting approval from the government for Co's appointment, though that's seen as a formality. Once that's done, the project can move into its next phase. There are also practical challenges to consider. Where will United play while the new stadium is being built? How will they manage the disruption to the local area? How will they coordinate with other major projects happening in Manchester? These are all solvable problems, but they require careful planning and coordination. That's why having someone like Co leading the project is so important. Learning from other stadiums. United haven't just jumped into this project blindly. They've been studying other major stadium projects around the world to learn what works and what doesn't. The club sent fact-finding missions to stadiums like the Bernabeu in Madrid and the Nou Camp in Barcelona. They've looked at how these clubs managed their stadium projects and what lessons can be learned. Real Madrid's renovation of the Bernabeu, for example, has been happening while the team continues to play there. That's given United insights into how to manage a major stadium project without disrupting the football. Barcelona's experience with the Camp Nou, meanwhile, has shown United what's possible when you think big about stadium capacity and facilities. The fan perspective. One of the most interesting aspects of this project is how United have approached getting fan input. Consulting with 30,000 fans about whether to stay or move is unprecedented for a club of United's size. The 50-50 split in fan opinion shows just how difficult this decision is. Half of United's fan base wants to stay at Old Trafford because of the history and tradition. The other half wants to move to a new stadium because of the opportunities it would bring. For fans who want to stay, Old Trafford isn't just a stadium. It's a cathedral of football. It's where they watched their heroes play, where they experienced the greatest moments of their lives as football fans. For fans who want to move, the new stadium represents hope for the future. Better facilities, more seats, and the chance to be part of something groundbreaking. United will need to manage this carefully. Even fans who support the move will want to see the history and tradition of Old Trafford preserved in some way in the new stadium. The economic impact. A £2 billion project doesn't just affect Manchester United, it affects the entire region. The construction phase alone will create thousands of jobs, from architects and engineers to construction workers and support staff. But the long-term economic impact could be even bigger. A 100,000-seat stadium would bring more visitors to Manchester on match days. More visitors means more money spent in local hotels, restaurants, and shops. If the stadium does host the 2035 Women's World Cup final, the economic boost could be enormous. Major sporting events bring visitors from all over the world, and they spend money not just on tickets but on accommodation, food, and tourism. The regeneration of the area around the stadium could also attract new businesses and investment to Manchester. Companies often want to be located near major sporting venues because of the prestige and the business opportunities they bring. Technical challenges. Building a 100,000-seat stadium presents some unique technical challenges. How do you get 100,000 people into and out of a stadium safely and efficiently? How do you provide adequate parking, transport links, and facilities for that many people? These are the kinds of problems that architects and engineers love to solve, but they're not simple. The new stadium will need to be designed with crowd flow, safety, and accessibility in mind from the very beginning. The stadium will also need to meet all the latest standards for sustainability and environmental impact. Modern stadiums are expected to be energy efficient, to minimize their environmental impact, and to contribute positively to their local communities. The role of technology. Any new stadium built in 2030 will be very different from stadiums built even 10 years ago. Technology is changing rapidly, and United will want to make sure their new stadium is future-proof. That could mean everything from better Wi-Fi and mobile connectivity to advanced video screens and sound systems. It could mean cashless payment systems, digital ticketing, and smart crowd management systems. The stadium could also incorporate new technologies that we haven't even thought of yet. By 2030, there could be new ways of watching football, new ways of engaging with fans, and new ways of making the stadium experience more enjoyable. Comparison with other projects. United Stadium project is happening at the same time as other major stadium developments around the world. Real Madrid are renovating the Bernabeu, Barcelona are working on the Camp Nou, and several other clubs are planning new stadiums. What makes United's project unique is the scale and ambition. A 100,000-seat stadium would be the biggest football stadium in the world. The £2 billion cost would make it one of the most expensive stadium projects ever undertaken. But United also have advantages that other clubs don't. They have one of the biggest global fan bases in world football, which means they can fill a 100,000-seat stadium. They have the financial resources to fund the project. And they have the support of local and national government. The women's football angle. The focus on hosting the 2035 Women's World Cup final is particularly interesting. It shows that United are thinking about the future of football, not just the present. Women's football is growing rapidly in popularity and commercial value. The 2023 Women's World Cup was watched by over 2 billion people worldwide. By 2035, those numbers could be even higher. Having a 100,000-seat stadium available for the Women's World Cup final would be a statement about the importance of women's football. It would show that women's football deserves the same world-class facilities as men's football. It would also be a smart business decision. Major tournaments bring global attention, and hosting the World Cup final would put United's new stadium on the map in a way that nothing else could. Environmental considerations. Any major construction project in 2025 has to consider its environmental impact. A £2 billion stadium project will use enormous amounts of materials and energy during construction. But modern stadiums can also be designed to be more environmentally friendly than older ones. They can use renewable energy, rainwater harvesting, and sustainable materials. They can be designed to encourage public transport use and reduce car travel. United haven't released detailed plans for the environmental aspects of their new stadium yet, but it's likely to be a major consideration. Modern football fans expect their clubs to be environmentally responsible, and major projects like this are closely scrutinized. The political dimension. Lord Coe's appointment brings a political dimension to the project that's important to understand. Coe isn't just a former athlete, he's also a former Conservative MP and a member of the House of Lords. His political connections could be valuable in getting government support for the project. Major infrastructure projects often need political backing to succeed, and having someone with Coe's experience and connections leading the project could be crucial. The fact that the appointment needs to be signed off by government shows how important the political dimension is. But it's seen as a formality, which suggests that the project has support at the highest levels. What this means for United's future. If this project succeeds, it could transform Manchester United as a football club. A 100,000-seat stadium would generate more revenue than almost any other stadium in world football. That money could be invested in players, facilities, and everything else that makes a football club successful. But it's not just about the money. Having the world's biggest football stadium would be a statement about United's ambitions and their place in world football. It would show that they're not content to rest on their history. They want to build for the future. The project could also help United attract the best players and managers. Top footballers want to play in the best stadiums, and a state-of-the-art 100,000-seat stadium would certainly qualify. Potential risks and challenges. Of course, not everything about this project is guaranteed to go smoothly. Major construction projects often face delays, cost overruns, and unexpected problems. There's also the question of whether United can actually fill a 100,000-seat stadium for every home game. While United have a massive global fan base, most of those fans don't live in Manchester. The local fan base might not be big enough to fill such a large stadium for less attractive fixtures. Economic conditions could also change between now and 2030. If there's a recession or other economic problems, it could affect the project's funding and timeline. There's also the risk that fans might not embrace the new stadium in the way United hope. Old Trafford has so much history and tradition that some fans might never accept a replacement, no matter how impressive it is. The legacy question. One of the biggest questions about this project is what happens to Old Trafford itself. The current stadium has been United's home for over 100 years, seen some of the greatest moments in football history. The original plan was to keep Old Trafford as a smaller second venue, but it's looking more likely that it will be demolished entirely. That would be a huge loss for football history. Some fans have suggested that parts of Old Trafford could be preserved and incorporated into the new stadium. The tunnel, the dugouts, maybe even part of the stands could be relocated to maintain the connection with the past. Whatever happens, United will need to handle this carefully. The club's history and tradition are a huge part of what makes it special, and fans will want to see that preserved in some way. Conclusion. Manchester United's plan to build a new 100,000-seat stadium is one of the most ambitious projects in football history. It's not just about building a bigger stadium. It's about creating a legacy that could last for generations. With Lord Sebastian Coe leading the project, United have someone who understands how to deliver major sporting projects that transform communities and create lasting benefits. His experience with the London Olympics could be invaluable in making this project a success. The dream of hosting the 2035 Women's World Cup final adds another layer of excitement to the project. It would put Manchester on the global stage in a way that few other events could match. But perhaps most importantly, this project shows that United are thinking about the future, not just the past. They're not content to rely on their history. They want to build something that will make history. The next few years will be crucial for this project. There are still many hurdles to overcome, decisions to make, and challenges to face. But if United can pull this off, It could be the most significant development in the club's history since its founding. For United fans, this project represents hope for the future. After years of disappointment on the pitch, the promise of a world-class new stadium gives them something to look forward to. It shows that the club still has ambition and vision for what it can become. Whether this project ultimately succeeds or fails, it will be fascinating to watch. This is Manchester United thinking big about their future, and that's exactly what their fans have been waiting to see.